Welcome back to another episode of What's New in Beauty. My name is Nia Lee, and I'm super excited to have you guys here. If this is the first time listening to the podcast, this is essentially all things beauty news, exciting marketing moves, and just giving my 2 cents on all the things that are happening in the beauty industry. Now, I ain't gonna hold you. The beauty industry to me has been a little bit dry lately, even though a ton of brands have been doing so many things. But these topics today, I really just want to dive into them because these things have been on my heart. They've been in my chest, and I just really want to talk through them. And again, like I said, give my 2 cents. So first up, I think this is going without saying, talking about I want to say this is iconic news slash interesting news slash I can't even believe this is happening because it kind of seems so far-fetched considering how the brand even started and how it really came to be. So this is all about Glossier launching in Sephora US and Canada. So essentially, as of last week, Glossier skincare and makeup products will be on shelves at 600 Sephora stores across the United States and Canada, as well as online and on the Sephora app. And actually, really interesting enough, I have the Sephora app on my phone, and I got a notification that Glossier was here, immediately went to the app, and everything was there. And it was such a surreal moment because I had first got introduced to Glossier, I think we all did years ago. I mean, the brand started essentially in 2014, and it was always, as we know, this, girl boss, millennial pink brand that really just stood out compared to essentially what the drugstores were putting out and essentially some of the bigger brands like the MAC Cosmetics and the Estee Lauders and whatnot. Glossier had always kind of been that brand. And if you know, then again, it's something you kind of had to be in to kind of experience it. But to see that Glossier is now going to be launching in Sephora is so surreal. And I've bought, I think, one Glossier product in my whole life. I think I bought the Brow Flick, and this was right around the time that I was working at a beauty studio and we were all about brows. And I really wanted to try it because I am a brow girl. Like, I will go ahead and buy products for brows day in and day out. A lot of the times it's the same products that I'm using. And if you want to know, definitely let me know as well too. Again, I've used the same products for years, but Brow Flick was interesting. I didn't really love it, but I got a really dope, I think everyone gets like the Glossier bubble wrap bag that everyone just uses for their makeup, and that's essentially probably the longest Glossier product I've ever had. So all that to be said, this also comes off of the essentially their revamped flagship store in New York, which if you haven't seen it, it is absolutely stunning and beautiful as well. Glossier always gets the aesthetics right. I do really have to say that. And this space is on Soho Spring Street, and it's the latest string of branded stores that they're actually opening as well to really boost their retail presence. And if you've been seeing them all over the place, then like it's such a dream to go into the stores. Like, I really have to say it, they really knock it out of the park with their aesthetics, as well as making it feel like it's really an experience all the way through. So last but not least, their signature Glossier Pink will also play a part in the presence. There will be a wavy tray tester. There will be flagship, again, stores all across Sephora with the signature You Look Good mirror. And I think that's really dope and cool because I think that's essentially what Glossier's whole vibe is. It really is an experience. Like, the products, I'd like to say, are pretty staple. And if you love Glossier products, then of course you're going to love them till the death. And I feel like everybody who loves Glossier is going to be excited about this move, but also just like the cool girl feeling that it gives as well too, which I will say is like in the moment of the time of you like real when Glossier was Glossier is what I'm gonna say was a thing, and everybody and their mama was essentially trying to aspire to that vibe. Essentially the what everyone's calling is that girl, the vanilla girl, whatever you want to call it, whatever TikTok is going to repackage it. That was essentially the vibe that Glossier was always making. So the whole thing of them having their signature Glossier Pink, which I call millennial pink, and I think everybody else does, as well as the wavy tray testers, as well as the signature You Look Good mirror. Like, I think that all makes sense, especially because Sephora, each essential makeup brand gets their own kind of way to create an experience essentially while you're in, that very, very tight, that very, very tight space. So really cool. I haven't visited a Sephora yet, but I might just go on the weekend just to see Wagwan because, there's my Jamaican coming out. But I really just wanted to see it just to kind of see the whole essence of it and, really experience the whole Glossier pink, millennial girl pink, that girl, cool girl vibe. So a statement from Glossier CEO Kyle Leahy, or Leah, I believe it might be Leahy, but I could be wrong there. Anyways, a statement from their CEO says Glossier is built on community, and Sephora is not only an iconic global retailer, but it also embodies our commitment to community, which is such an interesting thing because Glossier, I will say, is about community, and it was very much built on community. But again, you had to have a certain look to be in that community. And I think, as everybody knows, there's been so much ups and downs with Glossier, especially because Emily Weiss stepping down from the company last year and, them undergoing all these operational reconstructions and whatnot. And it really and also as well with, the news, as well as people sharing their stories from either people who work there or people just who had close proximity to the brand who didn't really feel seen, especially those, that are BIPOC, people of color, particularly who just didn't feel seen by the company. And a lot of the whistles were getting blown about Glossier. And I also spoke about this, I think I spoke about this on another podcast episode about them bringing Olivia Rodrigo. I do remember talking about this, that they brought Olivia Rodrigo in to kind of appeal to Gen Z. And that worked for like 2 seconds, I think. I think people were kind of like, okay, cool. Like, she's the hottest Gen Z, superstar right now. So yeah, that makes sense. But as we see just with like people changing their minds about celebrities and influencers and how things are changing, I think this made sense, especially because it's now we're essentially making Glossier part of the quote unquote community / making it accessible to everybody, which, I'm reading the comment sections. I'm hearing people, chime in about Glossier. And one of the biggest things that people hated about Glossier was that they didn't ship worldwide. That was always the biggest hindrance. And so the fact that who knows what's going to happen with Glossier outside of Canada and the US. I'm sure this is just kind of a testing ground, but it'll be really interesting to see what happens globally, because I know that was always such a deterrent for people not being interested into Glossier. But going back to the whole Glossier being built on community, I think there was a community that they were obviously looking to serve as well as, create. And they definitely did that very successfully. But as times have changed, as inclusivity / diversity has been a hot ticket item for a lot of brands, a buzzword for a lot of these brands. But I think for a brand like Glossier, understanding that, the brand was essentially built on community. I mean, the people really made Glossier as big as it was. Of course, Emily Weiss had such a huge influence in that, but we've also come out of 2014. We've gone through the era of 2016. We've gone through the era of even the pandemic as well. And to just see how they're making a change. I mean, some people say this is just them trying to save face / this is them, grasping at straws to see if people still give, give a poop about Glossier, the way they once did. So I will say, like, obviously it's a, great business move to see how people react to it, because I was following Sephora as well as Sephora Canada constantly marketing and constantly talking about Glossier, and the comments, people were here for the comments. Like, I'm talking hundreds of comments underneath these posts of people getting excited about Glossier. So it seems that, again, if you were always a loyal Glossier fan, that this is going to be exciting for you, because now you have accessibility to the brand even more, especially now you actually get to go into a store and multiple Sephoras at that to actually try the product. So that's obviously there. Of course, if you were already accessing their flagship stores and their other locations, then it was easier for you. But Sephora, as we all know, is like the mega retailer for all things beauty. So I think it's a smart move business wise, but it'll be interesting to see if this allows them to stay afloat as well too. So another quote from PR Newswire stated that with Glossier now at Sephora, we're extending the accessibility of our products, exactly what I was saying here, giving more opportunities to find your new essential Glossier go-tos while shopping the others you already love. And they also said, we think of Sephora as Glossier's home away from home, which I guess is a cute little, again, this is so PR related, but they state it's a cozy space surrounded by other beauty, skincare, lifestyle brands we love, all dedicated to connecting to our communities with style and purpose. And again, this comes fresh off the helms of Glossier undergoing operational reconstruction after Emily Weiss departed the company last year, after she founded it in 2014. And now Glossier is choosing to focus on US branded store expansion, opening new outlets in Washington, Atlanta, Philadelphia and Brooklyn, especially as of last year. So all in all, I think we can all understand what this play is. As a brand who, is kind of falling out of the conversation, which is, again, Glossier was such a part of the conversation. Like, you had to have the look. And I remember just from a social media standpoint, like, one of the things that I use Glossier pretty much as an example to, like, pretty much every single person I talk to, specifically in the beauty space, because I admire what Glossier did in the sense of they really were a brand that did not have to rely on heavy advertisement and having to do too much to market. It was kind of like the products kind of spoke for themselves. They were kind of that, essentially what we see a lot of beauty brands are doing now, which is like your skin but better, right? With the cloud paint, with their brow products, even with their complexion products as well too. Like and then even them venturing into skincare, like I feel like they were definitely a pioneer in the sense of, your skin but better / clean makeup / what people call, that girl makeup, or this kind of soft glam that everyone's kind of going for. Are you wearing makeup? I can't really tell. Like, they definitely pioneered that look altogether. And we can't deny that. We can't deny that the history of Glossier is essentially pioneering this look, as well as deep makeup products, as well as all of these companies that have essentially been birthed through Glossier as well, who've also created very similar products as Glossier too. So we can't ignore that. But I think we can also come to, and especially under this quote here about them wanting to be surrounded by other beauty and skincare and lifestyle brands, because as I stated, Glossier was in a league of its own. And I think they liked that for years. And at a certain point, you could do that. You could kind of be in a league of your own, considering when Glossier started in 2014, this whole indie brands, small beauty brands, even, BIPOC beauty brands, like that wasn't even a thing. Like, any brands that got in the mix, it was like, wow, they weren't really highlighted and focused the way they were now. And Glossier, I want to say, benefited from that, especially because they created an essential aesthetic. They didn't have to pay a lot of marketing. Essentially, everybody was able to market the products for them, and they were essentially able to get content and be able to market to a certain group of people who had this Glossier look. And whether you want to call it the off-duty model look, or again, the just effortless, your skin but better type of chick, or, human, however you want to go about it. But I just think all in all, it's so interesting to me that now they want to get into this realm. And I will also say this as well too, that we are in a time where collaboration and community over everything, collaboration over competition, whatever you want to call it, is on a rise. I see this so often with so many beauty brands who are collaborating with lifestyle brands and tech companies and wellness organizations, and nonprofit companies as well too, that are doing things that are just outside of, just beauty. And this is an interesting part of them wanting to say, hey, we want to be a part of different brands and we want to be surrounded by these different brands, because I think for years Glossier benefited from being the only brand, and now they get to be around these other brands as well too. And I guess it'll really be, so when you go to a Sephora, 9 times out of 10 you're going in there because you already know what you want. There is a bit of browsing that happens. And if you're somebody who's just stumbling onto Glossier for the first time, or you've heard about the brand and now you kind of want to see them in store, you do get to experience this whole feeling of Glossier and what it means to be that girl. And who knows, this could be something really exciting for a lot of people, specifically Gen Z as well too, which I also feel like this is a move again to really connect to Gen Z, because they are spending their coins, right? They are spending their coins on beauty and skincare nonstop. And we have to understand that that's also a group in a generation that did not get to experience Glossier in its heyday. You know what I mean? And so I feel like the Olivia Rodrigo move didn't really swing too well with them, like in the sense of like it was cute for 5 seconds, but now they're actually in this huge retailer, which a lot of people are going to, right? And I think Sephora pretty much, like, I'd be interested to see what their stats are about who's actually coming into Sephora and who's buying online and who's commenting and who's engaging on their, you know, on their social medias. But I'd be interested to see who's buying. And if it's Gen Z who's also, you know, making a decision to buy a lot of products, then it makes sense. But again, I'm a millennial as well too, or I'm an older Gen Z essentially. I want to squeeze myself into the millennial category as well. But I'm an older Gen Z, and I grew up with Glossier being around, and I didn't really pay attention to the brand until maybe 5 or 6, maybe 7 years ago. But it's such an interesting thing altogether to see it now being essentially in this democratized space of beauty where everybody gets a chance to shop and everybody gets a chance to essentially be that girl, which Glossier, like I said, is now entering into its era of, because they're realizing to try to separate and try to act like you are better than, which I feel like that's what the brand did for such a long time. It'll be really interesting to see how how this whole thing even goes with their marketing as well too, because slowly but surely, even if you go on their Instagram, you know, there's still an aesthetic, but it's still very product focused. And prior to, Glossier used to be very people focused. Like, they really had a look that they were going for. They really had a type of, you know, influencer or content creator they specifically wanted to highlight. And if you've been kind of peeping everything, obviously post 2020 and everything that happened with George Floyd and how brands have, you know, made a decision to prioritize more diversity and inclusivity, there's definitely more of that. And it still feels like everybody gets a chance to be a part of the Glossier pie. And it doesn't feel as specific to essentially that girl, vanilla girl. Essentially, we want to call it a white girl aesthetic. And we can agree, and I think we can all come to a conclusion that aesthetic was something that everybody was trying to aspire to in some way, shape, or form. Like, I remember telling people, like, Glossier is able to get the type of content they get because they essentially put out the type of feelers and the content and also the products that is going to attract that model or that, you know, stunning influencer that we don't know if she's a model or not, or again, somebody that, you know, doesn't need a whole bunch of makeup, but when they do put makeup on, it's like, oh my God, wow, they're so enhanced, right? But in a way that still feels very natural and very, you know, very much to themselves. It's like, again, an enhanced beauty on what they already got. So it'll be really interesting to see how, you know, Glossier plays in the Sephora handbasket or sandbasket playground, however you want to call it. And it'll be interesting to see what they do as well to kind of, again, highlight the fact that they're at Sephora. Right now, it just seems that they mostly have all their products on the page as well too, and on the app. But it'll be really interesting to see what other initiatives they do, like whether it's pop-ups, whether there's maybe like a VR aspect, whether there's masterclasses and certain things like that. Even though Glossier is not really like that, they're not like a really traditional, you know, beauty brand in the sense of like they're going to do all the things that most beauty brands will typically do. But I'll be interested to see what happens from this and if this gives them a little, you know, uptick of interest, because for the life of me, I think everybody can agree, Glossier was on a downward spiral. Like, they were not part of the conversation for a while, and they had a little news here and there. You know, no one was really like going super gung-ho over their products. You know, there's obviously talks as well of products changing and, you know, prices increasing and what that all means. And, you know, all that stuff is typically business stuff. I mean, there's not much you can do. If a brand's going to raise a price, the brand's going to raise the price. But I am really interested to see how people react to it. I haven't really heard too many people go super duper crazy over in the YouTube streets. Again, I have my eyes peeled. It just seems altogether everybody is kind of like, whew, finally now they're kind of available. But also a good handful of people are kind of like, it's kind of a little too late. So with all that being said, definitely let me know what you think about that one as well too. And again, like I said, I'll probably go to a Sephora at some point and check out what is poppin', see if they have the whole setup and everything. And I will let you guys know if I buy anything, because Glossier has never been one of those brands that's appealed to me to buy stuff. I feel like I can get a lot of their products other places. And I'm also a heavy makeup girly in the sense of I need my products to give me coverage. And yeah, so again, Glossier's products have never kind of been that. And I think that's definitely been their appeal, but it'll be interesting to see, you know, my reaction to it if I try the products or whatnot. So I'll definitely keep y'all posted. Next up, wanted to talk about some really innovative shit that like came across my timeline, and I have to talk about it because I'm just so impressed, specifically because we always have this conversation about how beauty feels very stale and we feel like brands are launching the same thing day in and day out. And to me, Fur essentially the brand Fur is launching the first ever ingrown patch for ingrowns. And it's called Microdart patch for ingrowns. They're launching it on Thursday. I am so insanely just like interested in this product / I can't even believe it has taken this long for a brand to come out with this. But Fur is the type of brand that they create a lot of products for essentially like the intimate area, for shaving, for, you know, bikini lines, for, you know, hair growth removal, whatever you want to call it. And so them coming out with an ingrown Microdart patch, which they're saying is their newest fast acting ingrown solution charged with 170 plus microdarts. I don't even know what microdarts are, like holy moly. But you can see it. Like if you see the advertisement on their social, it just looks so cool. And so it's 170 plus microdarts to target ingrowns right at the root quickly and effectively clearing up bumps in just 6 hours, which is really interesting to me. Like I've been seeing them obviously sending out PR to influencers. It'll be really interesting to see what the conversation is. I don't know if they've got some paid partnerships coming up with influencers and content creators, but I want to see these results. Like, I think that's going to be the biggest thing more so than anything, especially if they're giving us big claims like this of, you know, bumps being cleared up in 6 hours. And if you've had an ingrown, then you know how much that shit hurts. Like, it is the most painful thing. And them coming out with something that's specifically going to target that, like, not only is this innovative, but it's just smart considering how many people go through ingrowns. And ingrowns is also not just something that women go through, you know what I mean? So many, like, human beings can experience ingrowns, right? So I love that they are coming out with this and it's innovative, and they're essentially saying this is the future of ingrown care. So they also said it's not only dermatology tested, but gynecology, is this gynecology? No, am I speaking this right? Oh my God, this is crazy. I think this is not only is this dermatologically tested, that's what they're saying, but gynecologically tested as well to safely fight ingrowns where they may crop up. And again, in just 6 hours, these patches will smooth bumps, reduce inflammation, and speed up the ingrown reparative process. They said perfect for everybody, everywhere, from the face and neck to the bikini line and beyond. Ingrowns have met their patch. Love that. Shout out to the copywriting. You guys have it. And something that I've definitely noticed as well too is a lot of comments of people sharing their opinions on this new innovation from Fur, stating they want something bigger, also praising the brand for normalizing and showcasing models with body hair in their marketing. Some people have also called out a little bit of the outrage of the pricing. It's $28 for 12 patches. Brands are going to price things. At the end of the day, y'all, you got to make a decision if you want to buy it or not. Maybe there's an opportunity for a subscription. Maybe there's an opportunity for buying a certain amount of patches and getting a good deal. Who knows? You can sign up for the wait list now. It launches on Thursday. I just had to shout this out because I think this is so innovative. And again, we talk about brands regurgitating the same things. And as somebody who is also a beauty consumer, like I love buying stuff. I love buying beauty products and skincare and trying out new things from someone who just wants to use it / I also want to create some awesome content with it. I think this is so dope. And I think as well, I saw a couple comments of people saying, especially people who work in the beauty care industry, wax experts as well as professionals. Again, anybody that deals with anything in the intimate kind of area, talking about how innovative this is and how amazing this is as well too. I don't know if Fur is going to be partnering with some of these professionals. I think this would honestly be a smart move for them as well too, because considering how something like that is so essentially intimate in a way, and ingrowns is not something that typically people have a conversation about at all. And so it'll be really interesting to see how they're a company that is okay with showing things and normalizing things and having those uncomfortable conversations, but to really get the education out there as well too, I think it would be super smart to partner with beauty care professionals in the spas, in spaces where they're going to be dealing with ingrowns as well, and really kind of get them on board as well. Because I think we're also entering into an era in beauty and in specifically in the industry where people want to hear from professionals and experts, that they're kind of tired of hearing from influencers, and they're tired of hearing from people that just feel like, okay, this is just a new product, you're going to sell me something. We want to hear from professionals. We want to hear from experts. We want to hear from people who have, essentially credentials and know what it is that they're talking about and have experience. And so I think that would be to their benefit to go ahead and do that. Who knows? I don't know. I haven't heard too many things of this being in a partnership with, a beauty care professional expert, or, in some in some way, shape, or form. But it'll be really interesting to see how, again, this gets out into the world. And I hope this is not a launch that just kind of is in the ether and then nobody cares about it in the next 6 months, because I do think this is super innovative. If you guys end up trying it, definitely let me know as well too. I have my eye on it. I signed up for the wait list. I'm going to go ahead and see if I can get a pair and essentially maybe 12 patches, maybe even more, depending if I get a good deal. But overall, just innovative shit. I think it's just such dopeness, especially because it's such an issue that really can target anybody, and everybody experiences in their own way. And again, I'll be interested to see how they go about showing people actually how to get it done, / also showing people the results of it as well too. Because I think that claim of 6 hours is really, really interesting, because if I got an ingrown in the early morning and I got to go somewhere in the nighttime, and I know I can get, or afternoon, and I know I can get this essentially zapped and it can start the healing process, this is genius. It's already genius already, but if it actually works, and because everybody's body is different and everybody is going through different things, it'll be really interesting to see how people react to it / what are the actual results altogether. So last but not least, as we are talking about brands coming into retail and making changes and doing things a little bit differently, I want to talk about BeautyCounter launching in Ulta Beauty. So you guys have heard me talk about Ulta a gazillion times. I think Ulta is really the future of beauty retailers, and altogether, they seem to be really on the ball for getting really great indie brands / brands that are really kind of making a splash in the beauty industry. And it's Ulta really sees the vision and is okay, we really want to get in and partner with this brand. It's kind of like Target as well too. Target's also really good about this as well, really focusing on indie brands, BIPOC owned brands, and really highlighting them in the best way possible. But Ulta, they're they have it. It's giving infinity stones. They're collecting all of these brands like infinity stones, and BeautyCounter is now going to be available at ulta.com, and it's also going to be in 500 Ulta Beauty stores across the US on March 5th. And so essentially this launch into Ulta comes as BeautyCounter celebrates its 10-year anniversary, marking a decade of pioneering the clean beauty movement. So altogether, a curated selection of BeautyCounter best-selling skincare and cosmetics will be available at Ulta Beauty, including their All Bright C serum, their Dew Skin Tinted Moisturizer, and Reflect Effect Overnight Resurfacing Mask, and then as well, it'll closely live within Ulta Beauty's Conscious Beauty program, which I'm pretty sure is on the same level as the Clean at Sephora program that a lot of these brands are typically trying to prioritize, which is, again, a curated assortment of products featuring clean ingredients that are cruelty-free and have sustainable packaging. So altogether, this partnership with the nation's largest beauty retailer, there we go, is expected to accelerate BeautyCounter's growth and will support it. It will be supported by the largest brand campaign to date. The CEO of BeautyCounter, Mark Ray, stated that the partnership with Ulta Beauty is an exciting step towards achieving BeautyCounter's mission of getting safer products into the hands of everyone. They also followed up with saying, we're looking forward to introducing new consumers to our award-winning products. We believe that this partnership and the resulting growth of our community will allow us to have even greater impact on the future of beauty as we lead the industry beyond clean, where all beauty is uncompromising. That is such a PR statement. I love it. That is the perfect perfect PR statement altogether. That's really the one, guys. If we're going to do a PR statement, this is really the one to do. So again, in addition to launching into Ulta Beauty, they're actually going to be launching the largest brand campaign to celebrate again their 10-year anniversary, which they're calling the Raise Up Beauty. And it's a digitally led campaign that again will commemorate their 10-year anniversary, look ahead to the next chapter of BeautyCounter. And again, they will continue to sell D2C on their e-commerce site, as well as through a network of 45,000 direct sellers in the United States and Canada, and its 2 standalone stores in New York as well as Denver. So I really want to talk about how this has really caused a stir, particularly with the sellers and the consultants in the BeautyCounter universe. So I found about this news recently, essentially just maybe a couple days ago or so. And I had my eye on the post that they put up on their Instagram. And I actually remember sending it over to my friend, Shauna. Shout out to Shauna, because I wanted to hear her 2 cents on this as well, too. And I just had my eye on this post the entire time because a lot of the people who are commenting under this post, who seem to also be majority of consultants, allegedly. That's all I can really say right now because I don't really know. But it seems that a lot of people have expressed that they have felt upset, that they feel betrayed, that they found out about this partnership via social media and also allegedly through an email that was sent hours kind of after the post went up onto social media. Now, all of this is allegedly for, I feel like I feel like a bit of a gossip page right now to be allegedly, but all I know is from what people are saying on the social media comments. And when I say there are a lot of comments, there's hundreds of comments of people talking and sharing and airing out their grievances about this entire partnership announcement. And so they claim that they're largely upset about how this will affect consultants who claim that they have built the brand to what it is and wish they had a heads up or training on how to leverage their business and incentivize clients to remain faithful. So if you guys aren't familiar with BeautyCounter, they're essentially, I kind of want to consider, like, if you want to get blanket with it, they're kind of a multi-level marketing company, some sort of an MLM adjacent brand that essentially it has consultants, has people who sell BeautyCounter and obviously make a commission off of their products, right? And so now with this Ulta Beauty partnership where there seems to be a curated selection of products, there's a lot of uproar about, well, if someone can just walk into an Ulta Beauty or go on Ulta online and buy the products, then that essentially cuts me out as the consultant because it seems that the consultants haven't really been clued in on how this is going to incentivize them as, this partnership is like here. And it seems like it's going to be here for a while. And I completely understand where they're coming from because it would have been great for them to be able to figure out how they can do that, considering they have 45,000 consultants. I'm sure there's tons more, but it would be really interesting, like, for them, and it would have been really beneficial for them to be able to understand, okay, a partnership is coming. So what does that mean for us as the consultants who have clients and have people who buy from us, who now can just go into essentially another beauty retailer and maybe get the products for, easier, have more accessibility, and, that kind of leaves me out to dry a little bit. So I understand where that's coming from. I understand also from the business perspective of BeautyCounter that their big thing is getting to as much people as possible. And if they're a brand who's trying to scale and trying to grow and maybe, sell one day, they want to be able to reach as many people. And especially if they have a mission of, being essentially wanting to pioneer this clean beauty movement and get people more active into clean beauty, that they want to be in the biggest beauty retailer ever. You know what I mean? And Ulta Beauty has so many perks, especially because I'm Canadian, so I don't know all the ins and outs, but I know everybody and their mom talks about Ulta points and how, I think I just saw the other day, somebody got a Dyson Airwrap or hair dryer that was like $400 or $500 or $700 or something. And they got the thing for like 11 cents, all from these Ulta Beauty points. And it's so crazy to me because, like, wow, first off, holy moly. But secondly, if that's going to be more of incentive as me as, someone who shops at Ulta on a regular, and now I can get my BeautyCounter from there, or maybe I can try out BeautyCounter if I've never heard of the brand, because I also think that's what they're also trying to get. I don't think they're necessarily thinking that this partnership is going to be, whoever's got, the consultants have their clients and now these clients are going to go to Ulta. I think the whole point of the consultancy, as well as having people who are very close to the brand, is building those relationships and feeling like you're kind of getting your products and your knowledge from someone that you know and love. So I think that's kind of that aspect of it, versus somebody going into an Ulta at any point in time and just picking up BeautyCounter products, and we'll learn about the brand that way, right? And I think both things are great, right? It's kind of like a brand having ambassadors, right? It's the same kind of thing where if a brand has ambassadors or affiliates that will buy the products and then will put up their links and codes, and people can learn about the brand or purchase from that, person's creator's code, however you want to call it. It's still the same thing. I think brands need both ends, and BeautyCounter is saying if we want to grow and we want to be accessible to everybody, we want to be a huge beauty retailer and have a curated selection of products as well as what we have with the consultants. My thing is, it seems that there is definitely something been lost in translation here with them not knowing about this partnership, or how they now can market themselves and put themselves out there and let their clients know that, hey, this partnership is coming up, and here's why it's going to be important to still stick with me and still purchase your products from me. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I think that should have been super important, especially considering that when it comes to what BeautyCounter is all about, the brand was only as known as, most people talking about it, and these consultants essentially being the faces of the brand and talking about the brand and selling the products. But also, if you think about it, they also have a huge flagship standalone. They have 2 flagship standalone stores, right? So if anybody wanted to come into BeautyCounter, like, they could also do that as well too. I think because, however many people are going to New York and Denver, Ulta is going to be everywhere as well as online. Then I just think a lot of people all together have just feel very gypped. And I will say maybe there's a little bit of entitlement going on as well too, but I understand where they're coming from in the sense of them feeling like they were kind of left out to dry with this partnership, because it also has to feel mutually beneficial. But I guess the mutual beneficial aspect of it is that you get to represent our brand, you get to sell beauty products, you get to essentially build your own clientele. And that's always the thing with, multi-level marketing companies in a sense, right? I understand this whole thing of being your own boss and having your own clients and whatnot. But you also have to understand that companies are going to do what companies are going to do, and businesses are going to make moves to better the business, right? As much as the customers and the consultants and, everybody is such a huge part of the company growing, the business is going to make business moves that are going to be in the best interest of the business at the end of the day, right? And as much as people are feeling betrayed and feeling left out to dry, there's also a very few select people, I will say, who are excited about this, because it's now like, oh my God, now everybody gets to experience the awesomeness of BeautyCounter and really get to know the brand even more. And it'll be really interesting to see how are they including the consultants in the piece of the Ulta, or if there's no consultant piece as well too, because then it also kind of feels like there's, it's like 2 separate entities in a sense. And so all that to be said, this is an ongoing thing. I'll be really interesting to see how BeautyCounter kind of rectifies this whole situation of the consultants being upset and feeling like they weren't given a heads up / what's the point now if people can just go into Ulta instead of, buying products from me. And if you go to the post on BeautyCounter's page, I believe they still have it up. A lot of people have chimed in, and a lot of people are saying, well, someone went to Ulta and asked me if, I could get, there's like, all these different things that these consultants don't typically seem to have a lot of answers to. And I don't really see BeautyCounter, they've answered a couple comments here and there, but it's been very, very scarce, because it does seem like this has created a little bit more backlash than probably they were expecting. But I'll be really interested to see how this all kind of develops and unfolds. I mean, all in all, congratulations to all these brands for being able to make moves, Glossier, Fur, as well as BeautyCounter. But I think the number one thing has always just been, even with Glossier and Sephora, right? everybody knew Glossier was coming to Sephora for at least like a month or two, maybe even longer than that, right? Depending on, what inner circles you kind of run through. And when it came to marketing, it was a very rampant thing that everybody knew about. And, I don't think Glossier has any, consultants, but I'm sure that they have affiliates as well too, that maybe, who knows, maybe felt a certain way, about this new news. But altogether, I think the number one thing you should be doing as a brand and as a company is when you're going to be making such a huge move like this that is going to specifically direct your clients, customers, consultants, it's super important to keep them in the know and make them feel like they're a part of this process, considering, they might feel, and a lot of people are feeling like we built the company and to what it is, even though, again, like I did say, that kind of does feel a little bit entitled a little bit because the company is going to do what the company does. I mean, BeautyCounter has been thriving ever since it's essentially been launched. But it seems to me altogether that honesty should have been the thing that was prioritized, and also letting these consultants know now with this new partnership coming to play, what can you prepare for and what's the best, essential way that you can now navigate as a consultant with Ulta being involved, right? And I don't know if it's just something that they didn't think about. I don't know if it's something that they didn't care to think about. BeautyCounter is going to do what BeautyCounter is going to do, as most businesses do. But I think especially when a lot of your business is around people specifically, and those consultants play a huge role in being able to find their clients. And, the products obviously have to be great, but the consultants are the main reason why, people are learning about BeautyCounter for the most part at this point. I've known about BeautyCounter outside of, a consultant reaching out to me, but that's just because I'm a beauty nerd and I want to know all the things. But for the average person that doesn't know anything about BeautyCounter, they most likely will learn it from a consultant. And there is a ton of people that are saying, hey, cool, this partnership's dope, whatever. I'm still going to support and I'm still going to purchase from my consultant because I have a relationship with that person. And I think that is a true testament to you as a consultant, how you're able to ensure that the clients that you have consistently want to buy from you and want to consistently essentially support you. So it's a beautiful thing to see people vocalizing that, but I also think from a brand perspective, it probably would have been the best thing for them to set their consultants up for success, because I don't know if they were expecting this much backlash. Again, like I said, I don't know if they cared, but I think the number one thing is to be as honest and forthcoming as possible. And at least if something like this is going to happen, at least alert people like weeks, if not months in advance, if you possibly can, right? But again, big business is always going to do what big business is going to do. And especially when you're dealing with a company, that is the size of BeautyCounter, and with the way that they essentially have moved and have gained a lot of notoriety through people just knowing about the brand, but also through the consultants, I think it was a misstep on their behalf to be able to do that. And I'll be interested to see what happens from here, because March 5th is literally like this week, I believe, or like the next week. And it will be really interesting to see what the reaction is from, I'm sure they're probably going to do an event at Ulta. I'm sure there's going to be PR. I'm sure there's going to be influencers. It'll be interesting to see if they invite consultants and how they're part of that whole process. Because right now it doesn't seem like they have been a focal point of this whole, partnership and collaboration between Ulta and BeautyCounter. But like I said, I will watch closely and I'll give you guys an update as well too about what I see. But all that to be said, hopefully you enjoyed today's episode of What's New in Beauty. If you did, let me know. And until next time, I will catch you guys on the next episode.